You know, there is something nobody really talks about when it comes to eating healthy after 60. And I think about this a lot because it matters so much to so many people who are just trying to do the right thing for their bodies. We have spent decades being told that vegetables are always good. All of them, every single one. Eat your vegetables and you will be fine. And for most of our lives, that felt like solid advice. Simple, easy to follow, safe. But here is what changes after 60. Your body changes. Your digestion changes. The way your blood vessels respond to food changes. And some vegetables that worked perfectly fine when you were 40 or 50 can start working against you in ways that are quiet, slow, and honestly a little bit frightening because you cannot always feel it happening. Today I want to sit with you and have an honest conversation about this, not to scare you, not to take away the foods you love, but because you deserve to know the truth about what is actually happening inside your body when you eat certain things. And more importantly, I want to share with you 3 vegetables that can genuinely protect your legs, your heart, your mind, and your independence as you move through your 60s, 70s, and beyond. Because here is what I believe with everything in me. The later chapters of life can be the richest, most meaningful ones, but only if your body is strong enough to carry you through them. And that starts at the dinner table, one quiet, everyday choice at a time. So please stay with me all the way to the end. Because one of the vegetables I'm going to talk about today is sitting in millions of senior kitchens right now. And most people have absolutely no idea it could be slowly undermining the very strength they are counting on. Let us start with the good news, because there are 3 vegetables that are genuinely extraordinary for people over 60. And the first one might surprise you with how much it can do. Number 1, sweet potatoes. If I could choose one single food to put on every senior's plate every single day, it would be the sweet potato. Not because it is trendy or because some new study just discovered it, but because decade after decade, the research keeps pointing to the same thing. This humble, deeply colored root vegetable is doing things inside the aging body that most people simply do not understand. Let me explain what I mean. After 60, one of the most important things your body needs to get right is blood sugar regulation. When blood sugar spikes and crashes repeatedly over the years, it quietly damages the tiny blood vessels that run through your legs, your feet, your eyes, and your kidneys. You may not feel it for years, but that damage is accumulating, and for many older adults, it shows up eventually as numbness in the feet, poor circulation, slow wound healing, and a creeping loss of balance that can feel like it came out of nowhere. Sweet potatoes help protect against all of that. Even though they taste sweet, they actually have a much gentler effect on blood sugar than white potatoes or white bread. That is because of their fiber. The natural fiber in sweet potatoes slows digestion down and allows glucose to enter the bloodstream gradually, without that dangerous spike. But that is just the beginning. Sweet potatoes are one of the richest sources of beta-carotene you will find anywhere in the produce section. Your body converts that beta-carotene into vitamin A, a nutrient that becomes increasingly critical as we age. Vitamin A protects the lining of your respiratory system, supports your immune defenses, and plays a quiet but essential role in keeping the nerves and blood vessels in your legs functioning properly. There is also something particularly beautiful about the deep orange pigment in sweet potatoes. That color is not just for show. It represents a dense concentration of antioxidants that work inside your cells to slow down the kind of oxidative damage that accelerates aging. Think of it as a kind of internal protection system. Every time you eat a sweet potato, you are reinforcing that system. And for older adults who worry about falling, here is something worth knowing. The potassium in sweet potatoes helps regulate fluid balance in the body and supports healthy muscle contractions. That includes the small stabilizing muscles in your ankles and feet that you rely on every single time you take a step. When those muscles are well nourished and supported, your balance is steadier. Your steps are more confident. Your footing is more secure. The best way to prepare sweet potatoes is simple: baked in the oven until soft, or steamed and lightly mashed. Adding a small amount of healthy fat, like a drizzle of olive oil or a little bit of avocado, can actually help your body absorb the beta-carotene even more effectively. What you want to avoid is loading them up with brown sugar or butter and cream, which turns a truly nourishing food into something more like a dessert. One sweet potato several times a week. That is all it takes to start experiencing what this quiet, extraordinary vegetable can do. And while the sweet potato is building strength from the ground up, there is another vegetable that is doing something remarkable for the heart and the brain. Something that scientists are still genuinely excited about. Something that could change how you feel when you walk across the room. If you are still with me and you're finding this helpful, I just want to say thank you. Please keep watching, because what comes next is something I feel everyone over 60 should know. Number 2. Beets. There is a moment when you cut open a fresh beet and that deep jewel red color bleeds onto your cutting board. And if you have ever looked at that color and thought there is something powerful in there, you are right. Beets contain a group of natural compounds called dietary nitrates. And what those nitrates do inside the body is something that researchers have been studying with great excitement in recent years, particularly in the context of aging and cardiovascular health. Here is how it works. When you eat beets, those nitrates are converted by your body into something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a molecule that signals the walls of your blood vessels to relax and widen. That widening improves blood flow throughout the entire body. And for older adults, better blood flow can mean the difference between feeling strong and capable, and feeling sluggish, unsteady, and exhausted after minimal activity. Think about what that means specifically for the legs. After 60, circulation to the lower body often begins to decline. The legs and feet are furthest from the heart, and when circulation weakens there, the results can be serious. Cold feet, cramps, swelling. That uncomfortable heaviness that some people describe after standing for even a short period. Beets help push blood down into those peripheral vessels and keep them functioning the way they should. But the benefits of beets do not stop at the legs. The brain also depends entirely on strong, reliable blood flow. And studies involving older adults have shown that consuming beet juice or beets regularly can actually increase blood flow to the frontal lobe of the brain, the part responsible for planning, decision-making, and memory. Some research suggests it may even help slow the progression of dementia-related changes in the brain. That is not a small thing. That is the kind of protection that allows a person to stay sharp, stay independent, and stay themselves well into their later years. Beets are also rich in folate, a B vitamin that plays a role in heart health and in maintaining healthy nerve function. For older adults who may already be dealing with reduced nerve sensitivity in the feet, getting enough folate from whole food sources like beets can be genuinely supportive. And then there is the fiber in beets, which feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut, supports healthy digestion, and helps keep cholesterol levels in a healthy range, which matters for cardiovascular health at every age. When it comes to preparation, roasted beets are wonderful. Steamed beets are excellent. Fresh beet juice, if you have a juicer, delivers a particularly concentrated dose of those nitrates. What you want to watch is canned beets with added sodium, which we will talk more about in a little while. Always look for beets that are as close to their natural state as possible. One thing I want to mention. Beets can sometimes turn your urine or stool a pink or red color after eating them. This is completely harmless and normal, but I mention it because it can surprise people who are not expecting it. Do not be alarmed. A couple of servings of beets per week can genuinely begin to shift how your circulation feels, how your energy holds through the day, and even how your mind performs in those quiet hours of morning thinking. It is a vegetable that truly earns its place on the senior table. Now, before I share the third vegetable that can protect your health, I want to turn to something that I feel equally passionate about. Because protecting your body is not only about what you add, it is also about what you learn to recognize and gently remove. And we are going to get into that. But first, that third powerful vegetable for seniors. Number 3. Asparagus. Asparagus is one of those foods that people either love or feel a little indifferent about. But if you are over 60 and you have not been eating asparagus regularly, I want you to consider starting, because what this vegetable does quietly and consistently for aging kidneys, aging joints, and aging brain cells is genuinely impressive. Let us start with what asparagus contains. It is rich in a natural compound called asparagine, which acts as a gentle natural diuretic. In plain language, that means asparagus helps the kidneys flush out excess fluid and waste products from the body. For older adults who sometimes deal with puffiness in the hands, feet, or ankles, or who feel like their body is holding on to more fluid than it should, this can bring meaningful relief. Healthy kidneys are not something most people think about until something goes wrong. But after 60, kidney function naturally begins to slow. And when the kidneys are not filtering efficiently, toxins and waste products can linger in the bloodstream longer. Asparagus supports the kidneys in doing their job, quietly and consistently, every time you eat it. Asparagus is also one of the best food sources of folate available, and the reason folate matters so much for seniors goes deeper than most people realize. Folate helps regulate a substance in the blood called homocysteine. When homocysteine levels climb too high, they can damage the inner walls of blood vessels and raise the risk of stroke, heart attack, and cognitive decline. Eating folate-rich foods like asparagus helps keep those levels in a safer range, protecting both the heart and the brain at the same time. For joint health, asparagus contains a set of anti-inflammatory compounds, including saponins and flavonoids, that help calm the low-grade inflammation that often worsens with age. Many older adults report that changes in their diet, particularly adding more anti-inflammatory foods, can make a noticeable difference in the stiffness and achiness they experience in their knees, hips, and fingers. Asparagus is one of those foods that can be part of that shift. There is also a meaningful amount of vitamin K in asparagus, which works alongside calcium and vitamin D to maintain bone density. After 65, protecting bone density becomes critically important. Fractures, particularly hip fractures, are among the most dangerous events that can happen to an older adult, often triggering a chain of complications that affects every aspect of life. Foods rich in vitamin K give the body one more layer of protection against that kind of vulnerability. The best way to prepare asparagus is lightly roasted or steamed. A little olive oil, a squeeze of lemon, a touch of salt. Simple, quick, genuinely delicious. Overcooking it until it is limp and gray removes much of its nutritional value and makes it less appealing to eat. A few spears of asparagus several times a week. That is a simple, accessible habit that can support your kidneys, protect your heart, calm inflammation in your joints, and strengthen the bones that keep you standing tall. Now, we have talked about 3 vegetables that can quietly build your strength from the inside out, and I hope those feel encouraging and doable, because what I want to talk about next is just as important, and perhaps a little harder to hear. Because some of the vegetables that feel the most familiar, the ones you have been eating for years without a second thought, can be quietly working against you in ways that only become clear after the damage has accumulated. So let us be honest with each other, because you deserve the truth. Number 1. Corn. Corn is one of those foods that feels wholesome in a way that is almost nostalgic. Summer corn on the cob, corn at the cookout, canned corn stirred into soups and casseroles through the colder months. For most of us, corn carries happy memories, and I understand that completely. But for adults over 60, particularly those managing blood sugar, blood pressure, or circulation concerns, corn can be doing something that the happy memories make it hard to see clearly. Here is the problem. Corn, especially the processed and canned varieties most people eat regularly, is extraordinarily high in rapidly digestible starch. That starch converts to glucose in the bloodstream very quickly after eating. Faster than most people expect from something they think of as a vegetable. And those blood sugar spikes, repeated meal after meal, over months and years, quietly damage the small blood vessels throughout the body. The small blood vessels in the legs and feet are particularly vulnerable. When they are damaged by repeated glucose surges, circulation to the lower extremities begins to decline. Sensation can dull, nerve fibers can weaken, healing slows down, and the result over time is a loss of stability and feeling in the feet that raises the risk of falls dramatically. This is not a theoretical concern. It is something that plays out in the lives of older adults every day. And corn is a contributing factor that almost nobody talks about. There is something else about corn that deserves attention. The fiber in corn is largely insoluble and not particularly effective at slowing digestion the way the fiber in sweet potatoes or beets does. That means you get the blood sugar impact without the protective buffer that slows it down. And because corn is also relatively low in the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that older bodies genuinely need, choosing it regularly means missing the opportunity to eat something that would actually protect and strengthen you. Canned corn adds another layer of concern. Most canned corn varieties contain significant added sodium, which can raise blood pressure and strain heart function. For older adults who are already working to manage hypertension, this is not a trivial thing. Every can of high-sodium corn stirred into a pot of soup is pushing against the progress made through medication, reduced salt in other areas, and careful eating habits. This does not mean you can never enjoy a small ear of fresh corn at a summer gathering. But for daily eating, for the foundation of your nutrition after 60, corn is simply not working for you, and there are so many better vegetables that can take its place on the plate. Now, the second vegetable I want to tell you about is one that surprises people every time. Because it is celebrated in health communities, it has a strong reputation as a superfood. And yet for many adults over 60, particularly those with certain health conditions or who take specific medications, it can create problems that are very real and very serious. If you are still with me and finding this valuable, I want to hear from you. Drop a 1 in the comments right now so I know you are still here. It means everything to me to know these conversations are reaching the people who need them. Number 2, raw kale in large amounts. I want to be careful here because kale is genuinely nutritious in many ways. I am not here to tell you kale is poison. That is not the truth. But I am here to tell you that raw kale, eaten in large quantities on a regular basis, carries some specific concerns for adults over 60 that most health content simply does not discuss. The first concern is oxalates. Kale contains a significant amount of oxalic acid, which can bind to minerals in the digestive tract, including calcium and magnesium, and prevent them from being properly absorbed. For older adults who are already at risk for reduced bone density, eating large amounts of raw kale regularly could actually work against the very bone health they are trying to protect. There is a painful irony in that. Choosing a vegetable you believe is building your bones when it may actually be interfering with mineral absorption. Oxalates also contribute to the formation of kidney stones in people who are susceptible to them. And after 60, when kidney function is already naturally declining, adding pressure through high oxalate foods can be a risk worth taking seriously. The second concern with raw kale in large amounts involves something called goitrogens. These are natural compounds found in raw cruciferous vegetables, including kale, that can interfere with thyroid function when consumed in significant quantities. Your thyroid gland is responsible for regulating your metabolism, your energy levels, your body temperature, and so much more. In older adults, thyroid function is already more fragile, and even mild disruptions can show up as fatigue, unexplained weight changes, and a persistent sense of feeling off that is hard to pinpoint. Cooking kale changes this picture significantly. Heat reduces both the oxalate content and the goitrogenic activity, making cooked kale a much gentler and safer option. Lightly sautéed kale in a little olive oil and garlic is genuinely nourishing and much less problematic for the thyroid and kidneys than large raw kale smoothies consumed daily. The third concern is medication interaction, and this one matters deeply. Kale is very high in vitamin K, which plays a role in blood clotting. For older adults who are taking blood-thinning medications like warfarin, dramatic or inconsistent consumption of high vitamin K vegetables like kale can interfere with how those medications work. This does not mean you can never eat kale if you are on a blood thinner, but it does mean that eating it in inconsistent large amounts, a huge raw kale smoothie today and none for a week, and then another big one, can make it much harder for your doctor to keep your medication properly calibrated. The message here is not that kale is a bad vegetable. It is that raw kale in large quantities, eaten repeatedly, carries real considerations for older adults that deserve attention. Small amounts, cooked, are a very different story. Choose cooked leafy greens over large raw servings. Your thyroid, your kidneys, and your bones will thank you. And now, we come to the third vegetable, the one that I think affects the most seniors and the one that carries perhaps the most hidden risk wrapped up in something that feels completely safe and even smart. Number 3. Canned vegetables with high sodium. I know this one might feel less dramatic than a specific vegetable name, but I want to explain why I chose this for the third spot on this list, because it affects such a large number of older adults and because the consequences can be profound. Many seniors, particularly those who live alone or who find fresh cooking challenging, rely heavily on canned vegetables, canned green beans, canned peas, canned corn, canned tomatoes, canned carrots. They are convenient, affordable, and they feel like a reasonable way to keep vegetables in the diet. And in terms of caloric nutrition, some of the vegetable content survives the canning process reasonably well. But here is what the label does not tell you simply. Most commercially canned vegetables contain between 300 and 600 milligrams of sodium per serving. Some contain even more, and for adults over 60, that amount of sodium, repeated across multiple meals and multiple days, is doing something inside the body that quietly and steadily raises the stakes for heart health and circulation. High sodium intake causes the body to retain water. That retained water increases the volume of blood circulating through the vessels, which means the heart has to work harder to pump it. Blood pressure rises. The walls of arteries are placed under greater strain. And over time, that strain accelerates the hardening and narrowing of blood vessels that contributes to heart attack and stroke risk. For the legs specifically, high blood pressure combined with poor circulation creates conditions where fluid pools in the lower extremities. That is the swelling, the tightness, the heavy feeling in the ankles and feet that many older adults experience and simply accept as a normal part of aging. But it is not inevitable. And for many people, reducing high-sodium canned vegetable intake is one of the most meaningful steps they can take toward relieving it. There is also the issue of what canning takes away. High-heat canning processes destroy a significant portion of the water-soluble vitamins in vegetables, particularly vitamin C and certain B vitamins. So you may be getting less of what you hope from canned vegetables than you realize. The protective antioxidants and enzymes that make fresh or lightly frozen vegetables so powerful are often diminished or destroyed by the time a canned vegetable reaches your bowl. The simple solution, when budget and access allow, is to choose frozen vegetables over canned. Frozen vegetables are typically processed very quickly after harvest and retain much more of their nutritional value. They contain little to no added sodium, and they are often just as affordable and convenient as canned. If canned vegetables are truly the only accessible option for you, look for labels that say no salt added or low sodium. They are more widely available than many people realize, and they can make a genuine difference in how much sodium you are taking in each day. Protecting your heart, your blood pressure, and the circulation in your legs does not always require expensive supplements or dramatic changes. Sometimes it is as simple as reaching for the frozen peas instead of the canned ones. Small choice, meaningful outcome. And this brings me to where I always like to end up in these conversations. Because the real heart of everything we have discussed today is not about restriction or fear. It is about love. Love for the life you have. Love for the body that has carried you this far. And a deep, genuine respect for everything that still lies ahead. Because here is what I believe so strongly. The years after 60 are not a slow fading. They are a different kind of richness. The grandchildren you get to hold. The morning light you get to notice. The wisdom you have earned that nobody can take from you. The moments that only come when you have lived long enough to understand what truly matters. And all of that, every single bit of it, is protected by the body you live in. When you choose sweet potatoes over white bread. When you add some beets to your plate. When you reach for asparagus and keep the sodium low and give your legs the circulation they deserve. You are not just eating. You are investing. You are saying, I still have things to do, places to go, people to love, and I am going to take care of the body that makes all of that possible. I know it is not always easy. Life is complicated, budgets are real, old habits are comfortable, and sometimes the vegetable you have been eating for 50 years does not feel like something you should have to question. I understand that. I really do. But you watched this far today. That tells me something important about you. It tells me that you care, that you are paying attention, that you have not given up on building the best possible future for yourself. And that matters more than you know. So I want to ask you something before you go. What is one thing from today that you are going to try in your own kitchen this week? Maybe you're going to roast some beets for the first time. Maybe you are going to switch from canned vegetables to frozen. Maybe you are going to try a sweet potato for dinner tonight instead of reaching for the usual starch. Whatever it is, I want to hear it. Tell me in the comments. Because these conversations are not one way. They are a community. And every single person who is watching and learning and making changes is part of something meaningful. Before you go, if this video gave you something real today, please take a second to give it a like. It helps more people find this information who need it just as much as you do. And if you know someone, a friend, a sister, a neighbor who is navigating their health in their later years and trying to make better choices, please share this with them. Because sometimes one video at the right moment can truly change the direction of someone's health. And subscribe to Senior Food Secrets TV if you have not already. We are here every week with conversations exactly like this one. Honest, practical, warm, and built entirely around helping you live stronger, longer, and with more joy in every single day. Aging is not the end of anything. It is the deepest invitation to take care of yourself that you will ever receive. And every good meal, every smart choice, every vegetable you choose with intention is your answer to that invitation. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. It means more than I can say. Now go take care of yourself. You have earned it. Have a beautiful, blessed day. And as always, eat well, stay strong, and never stop choosing yourself.